A thread by Carlos Osuita. Dear Chicago Police, are you tired of being patsies? I don't get why you're pussyfooting around the fact that every single person there is a criminal. This is why President Trump is sending in cops who don't coddle criminals. From YouTube, a Breitbart video, basically a presentation by the Chicago police explaining to the world we are being assaulted by criminals and we are not defending ourselves. It's that simple. It's really that simple. I don't get the purpose of your briefing. All you did was show us how you hung your men and women out to dry. The crowd totally took advantage of the fact that you're too afraid to even defend yourselves. I'm not a cop, but here's my unsolicited observation. Their First Amendment right ends where your skulls and eyeballs begin. Don't you understand that? They don't have a constitutional right to carry out carefully rehearsed ambushes that result in police officers having to be hospitalized. I'm in an odd position in that I seem to care more about your well-being than you do yourselves. Would you like me to go to Chicago and protect you? I'm not afraid. We had to protect German soldiers in Afghanistan because they weren't allowed to fire their weapons. I don't need a firearm. I'll show up with my slingshot and some 1-inch ball bearings, and I'll straighten them out in short order. I'll even wear a helmet. I noticed that you don't let your people wear helmets. Help me grasp the rationale for all this. Is your refusal to defend yourselves actually lowering the level of violence? That seemed like the most vicious attack yet. Your people didn't wear scary protective helmets or have racist protective shields, but you got attacked anyway. What's the next step? Nudity? Is the appeasement actually working? What am I missing? From the outside, it looks to me like you're encouraging violence by appearing weak. Did anyone ever tell you that surrendering to criminals doesn't make them go away? Let me tell you a story about my childhood. I was born and raised in a third world country. My father was an American who worked there. We lived in a sealed off camp with armed guards. From 1964 to 1974, the country was under constant attack by terrorists trained in Cuba. The government created a secret police force that spent no time fighting terrorists. Instead, it killed political dissidents and kidnapped the children of American expats. We were targeted twice. My father worked for one of the largest corporations in the world. The company gathered together as many World War II and Korean War combat vets as it could and formed a kind of internal security force. My father got his hands on a Browning automatic rifle, BAR, that he modified by shortening the barrel and buttstock. He also fabricated his own 30-round magazines. We had a giant Ford station wagon with bench seats. My father cut a holster in the front seat for his BAR carbine. Since the car had a black interior, the weapon was invisible. Essentially, my father invented the H-car. One day, my father and 2 of his kids, including me, were out on a deserted road when we got pulled over by an unmarked car. 4 men in business suits and sunglasses got out and came toward us. My father took out his H-car and said, "Get down, cover your ears." 2 men were on either side of the car. Before they could say a word, my father killed the 2 men on the driver's side. The weapon was fully automatic, and he put several .30-06 rounds into their heads. He then got out and killed the 2 others as they ran back to their car. We drove off, leaving them on the road. They were dirty cops, my father said. They got what they deserved. I think the corporation veterans were following in a second car, and they took care of the bodies. The secret police came to our house a second time. The power went out, and my father pulled his H-car from under his desk. What happened next is unclear, but I remember seeing my father firing out the open front door, and I remember men screaming. We weren't bothered again. In fact, the secret police were disbanded soon after that. I know the corporation and the US government put extreme pressure on the country. We left in 1972. It's not nice to remember seeing men shot to death in front of me, but it had to be done. There's a vast continuum between the Chicago police opening fire with light machine guns and doing nothing to defend itself. In other words, you don't have to do either extreme. I really don't want to see what criminals are doing. I want to see what you're doing. If all you're doing is giving us detailed presentations of how criminals abuse your officers, then what good are you? All you're doing is showing other criminals how to pull off ambushes. Is that what you're reduced to? Trainers of urban terrorists? Time for the madness to stop. You're doing nobody any favors by being helpless targets in a shooting gallery. It doesn't demonstrate morality. It's actually immoral to cede control of cities to terrorists. Chicago, of all places, should know this.